For this knife talk video, we're looking at the Great Eastern Cutlery Northfield number 81 Abilene Stockman in oil sucker rod wood. And this is a really cool knife for a few reasons. So I got this at the 2014 Rendezvous, which was the first rendezvous that I went to, and it's a parts knife. So it was made from parts from a run of the number 81 Abilene Stockman that they did in 2013. So you can see on the blade stamp there that the blade is stamped 2013, not 2014. And that's because this is a parts knife. So they only made 8 of them for the Rendezvous, as you can see there. And this is number 4 out of 8. So, you know, a relatively rare knife, one that I was happy to get. I think that this was the first Stockman knife that I got. Not sure if the 82 Dixie stock knife that I had came out before or after I got this. I think this was the first one that I had. And another reason it's a really nice knife is just how well it's built. So it's one of, if not the best built Great Eastern Cutlery knife I've seen or had. The blades all have very, very smooth opening with great snap, both open and closed. Secondary sheet foot here, same deal, nice and smooth, opens with good snap and closes with good snap. And same for the spade blade. And so as you can see there, it's also a very, traditional Stockman. It has a very classic long pull with a swedge clip point, just a nice simple sheet foot, and then the classic spade blade. So really classic Stockman. It's a serpentine Stockman. So, you know, a good size also. I think it's about 4 inches closed, maybe slightly more. So it's like a nice large Stockman and just really, really well built. It's polished all throughout, the bolsters, the shield, the back springs, and even on the inside of the springs. So just really, really well built, no play on any of the blades or anything like that. And because it is such a classic pattern, just really good looking. So the very classic blade shape combination, the serpentine frame, the cloud shield, which some people don't like, or I think they call it a keyhole, but most people call it a cloud shield. Some people I think don't like it, but I think it's, you know, a good shield for a knife like this. All of that makes for a really good looking knife, along with the oil sucker rod wood handles. So I've talked about oil sucker rod wood on in some other videos that I've made on other knives that I have with this handle material, but it's worth talking about again. It's a really cool handle material. What it is it's reclaimed wood, reclaimed scales from wood in the Titusville area that is left over from when they still used wood for the casing of oil wells. So that's why it's called oil sucker rod wood, because they call it a sucker rod. This is from when they were still using wood, which, you know, now they use mostly, I think, metal and also some plastic. But these are definitely old pieces of wood. And because they've been used as oil sucker rods, they are almost kind of like a stabilized wood. They've been soaked in so much crude oil that it gives them a greenish color, and I think that it makes them a tougher kind of wood scale than if they hadn't been soaked in that crude oil. So it gives them a really cool kind of green crude oil look, and if you don't know, crude oil is a greenish color in this area, in the Pennsylvania area. So really cool look to the covers on this knife with the oil sucker rod, especially being that it's a bigger knife. I have the Beagle in oil sucker rod, and then the Rendezvous special knife from the 2014 Rendezvous was a one-arm or razor blade TC Barlow with oil sucker rod handles, and they look really, really good. But being that this is a bigger knife, you can see the grain of the wood a little bit more, and it just gives it an even nicer look, I think. So just a really, really classic knife, very good looking, classic Stockman style, and really, really well made. And this knife, as you can see, hasn't been used very much. So being that it is from 2014, almost 4 years old now, it has no patina, pretty much brand new. The reason for that is because I gave this knife to my dad after the Rendezvous. He actually lives really close to Titusville in Franklin, PA. And he had given me Great Eastern Cutlery 65 Ben Hogan and the Queen utility trapper, which is like their slimline trapper. And I decided to give this to him, and I think he really liked it and decided to just kind of put it away. He put it up on a shelf in his office and just kind of keeps it there. And really, I think it's worth that. Now, this would certainly be a great using knife. You could definitely use this as a work knife, and all of these blades will cut really well because they're ground nice and thin. It works well, you know, definitely could be a using knife. But being that it's, you know, relatively rare, that it's from the Rendezvous, that it's a parts knife, and that it has this really cool handle material. Oh, and by the way, I think part of the reason he put it in his office is because he is, you know, involved in the oil industry. So it's kind of historic and relevant to him. And so it hasn't been used at all, which in some cases I like to use most of the knives or almost all of the knives that I have. But I think in this case it was a good choice to not use it, because it just is such a well-made, good-looking knife that it's worth kind of keeping pristine and you know, just kind of having as a collection piece. So I got the chance here to make some videos of it today. I made a 1 minute overview. I'm sure by the time I'll upload this, I'll have already uploaded that. So, you know, you can check that out if you would like to see a quick overview of it. But it's just a really nice knife. Now, one thing that I want to point out about this knife that is a really great design element from Great Eastern Cutlery is the fact that this sheep foot blade sits so low. So many stockman style knives, the sheep foot blade sits really high, and when you open the main blade, usually a clip point, it makes it uncomfortable to use. Now, some people say that it's not a problem. I do think it is. If you're really using a knife, then especially if it has a swedge, which a lot of stockman sheep foot blades do, it can make it uncomfortable to use. The other thing that sometimes the tip will even stick up. Well, this one doesn't at all. So I think that this is just a really well-designed stockman also because of that, because this sheep foot blade is actually even a little bit lower than the main clip point. The spade blade sits nice and low, so really a great knife. And to be honest, taking the time to look at this knife again, which I haven't looked at it in a while, it's making me wish that I had one of these 81 Abilene stock knives. I know that they did the run of 81 bull mooses recently, but I really appreciate stockman knives because they fit 3 blades into a 2-spring knife, and it offers a nice full-size main blade and 2 secondaries. Really like the stockman style of knife, and if they're all made as well as this one is, they're certainly one of GEC's best runs of knives. So I might you know, try to find one for myself, and if so, I will make it a user and see how it is in use and everything, and probably do a video on it also. But I just wanted to take the time to make some videos on this knife, show it, because it is such a great knife, and you know, one that you don't see very often because so few were made for the Rendezvous, and it is older and everything like that. So if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. I try to respond to them if I can, and I'm always interested to hear what you all have to say. And if you'd like to get updates for when I post other videos, you can get notifications if you subscribe to my channel. And otherwise, don't forget to go out and do good.